There's a few things happened in the last week or so since I last made a video. I've been out of the country. I've been to Copenhagen in Denmark, which is visiting family and friends, which is kind of part of where I'm from. I'm also partly from Norway, so I'm technically Scandinavian, although I have a British passport. I've lived in Scotland for as long as I can remember. Um, so I don't feel very strongly that I am from any specific place, but more broadly, I feel I'm from the European continent. And please don't get that confused with any sort of support of the European Union and all of that stuff. That's not really where my loyalties lie with that whole political business. Um, there's a fair few things have happened lately. There's more division on the right. People arguing about Rupert Lowe's position on ethno-nationalism and the seeming conflation of neo-Nazism with ethno-nationalism, and yeah, various things have been going on, including Farage sort of resigning or putting the Clacton, resigning as an MP, but he plans to stand in the by-election, which will result from that. So, and all, this £5 million donation, which he received but didn't declare. For what it's worth, I think Farage is fairly dodgy, and morally questionable, and he does seem to blow with the wind, and he doesn't really beat out a path in a political direction. He kind of waits for others to do it and then steps in, sort of steps into the limelight, if you like. But it was interesting, my trip to Copenhagen, and the areas which I was in was fairly central. It's a beautiful city, some amazing old buildings and churches, and there are lakes there and the botanic gardens, and we had some beautiful weather. We also had some wet and windy weather, so that was kind of similar to what I'm used to in the northwest of Scotland. But it was noticeable, going into cafes and restaurants and places like that, that if you were doing that in like an airport in London or somewhere like that, then huge numbers of so-called ethnic minorities doing the more menial tasks. But people serving in cafes and such like were mostly natives from these lands. And so I got the impression that Copenhagen was nowhere near as culturally enriched as many other European and British cities are. But I have been informed that if you went to some parts of Copenhagen, which I didn't have time to go to, then they would be more like Birmingham and Tower Hamlets and such like. But yeah, things seem to work fairly well. They have a new, as in when I say new, it's been 25 years since I was last over there, and within that time, they have a new metro system, a subway system, which there has been some resistance to, and it cost billions to construct. But I went on that a number of times, and it seems to work very smoothly. And it's constructed in such a way that you go down, unlike the tube in London, you go down to the platform and you can't physically get onto the tracks. And the trains pull up, and all of the doors line up with other doors that are on the platform, and then they open and you can go in and off the trains. Then it closes and the train whooshes off through the tunnels, and there are no drivers. It's all driverless. And there isn't really a timetable either, because if you want to go somewhere, the most you have to wait is about 3 minutes, because it's just train after train after train. There are only 4 lines there. One of them's circular. One goes to the airport, and then there's a couple of other ones. And I believe there's more work continuing on that. But it's interesting in terms of an old city with many beautiful buildings that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. And this thing is constructed way beneath, and much of it must be below sea level as well, because Copenhagen's a very flat city, and some of it does go under the sea. There's a harbour, and there's different areas. So an incredible construction project, and that makes you think of HS2 and things like that, and the Scottish Parliament, which I was working on 20 odd years ago, on the landscaping side of things, and that was a project that went massively over budget, about 10 times. It was supposed to be 40 million and ended up being about 400 million, and was years overdue. And things I saw working on that site, in terms of inefficiency and things having to be redone. Job was finished, but then there was some fuck up in the planning, and the work that whoever had done had to be ripped up just so that something else could be done. It was not well organized. And not long after, in Edinburgh, there was also the tram system that was built. Edinburgh used to have trams, I think, up until the 1960s or so. And then they were done away with and replaced by buses. The buses are still there, but they have a tram system from the centre down to Leith and then out to the airport. And that went massively over budget. And at one point they were thinking about, after they'd already spent 100 million or something on it, they were thinking about pulling the plug on the whole thing. And so yeah, it's in this country we have, and I don't know that much about HS2, apart from you can see it if you look at Google Earth, and even if you're quite far out, you can see the line from London going up to Birmingham. It's a huge construction project. But I believe there are many inefficiencies and things going over budget, etc., etc. So it's interesting to see this subway system, the metro in Copenhagen, functioning seemingly very efficiently. Yeah, beautiful city, and I will probably use some of my photos from there as thumbnails over the next wee while. I kind of, in case anybody's wondering, for complicated personal family reasons, I don't want to have my face on a thumbnail that could then be used, because some of the things I talk about are considered to be inflammatory, and I have been legally advised not to do that. But basically, yeah, in order to minimize the chances of being seen and recognized, I will keep my face off the thumbnails, and that gives me an excuse to use better thumbnails, photos that I've taken. So yeah, not really any overarching theme to this video, but I just wanted to make one and record some of my thoughts. There will be plenty more to come as and when I have time to record them. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.